You're autistic? Thank you very much. Yeah, my headphones are so broken. I can only hear from the left side now, and if I even move the controller too much, or even move the wire too much, we could just lose the audio entirely. I don't know about microphone. Like the microphone might still work, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Do you have the right one for school? So I already wrote this, but I have to rewrite it for school. So you know, lose and do your homework. I always do my homework, but I want to do Elden Ring. But I want to do Elden Ring. God damn it! All right, look, we got a Julius Caesar character ready to go. All right, maybe I could like read you guys some Julius Caesar facts or something. Pull up my good old lecture school notes. Also, the thumbnail for this live stream is kind of crazy. Yeah, maybe just pull out some Roman history notes. Why not? It'll be kind of funny. Okay, not that one. Here we go. We'll do a simple thing here. I don't really know how to read chat and this at the same time. It's fine. It'll be fine. All right, you got Julius Caesar in the flesh, and I'm gonna be reading a bit of some text here during boss fights or something. I don't know. The civilization of ancient Romans have influenced almost every aspect of your own modern society. On countless occasions, we still do as the Romans did, yet many of us envisage these lively, dynamic, and talkative people as marble statues standing grimly. Don't want to fall off the stairs. Standing grimly silent in museum hallways. It is the purpose of this book to allow the ancient Romans to step forward and talk to us about themselves. Sociologists gather data about the modern world from personal interviews. Social historians must rely for personal interviews on the written words of people who lived in the past. This book is an anthology of translations into English of materials written in Latin and Greek about 2,000 years ago. It is designed to offer people interested in Roman social history the opportunity to examine. Oh shit! Absolutely got blasted. So this is just a preface. Let's get right into the meat and potatoes. Introduction. Ancient Roman society developed in a tiny farm village on the banks of the Tiber River, about 15 miles from the Mediterranean coast. Over a period of 1,000 years, this village evolved into a very large and cosmopolitan city that was the ruler of a vast empire. The citizens of Rome had advanced relentlessly. Guess you gotta do your homework? No, I don't actually die in this scene. It takes you down to 1 health, and you don't die in that scene. If I were to fall off the cliff, I would have lost. Honestly, reading is kind of boring, so I'll just tell you some facts that I learned. Did you know there was a king called the Poison King? His name was Mithridates, and he fought against Pompey. English version is Pompey. Pompey was a Roman general, and he was probably one of the greatest generals in the Roman Empire. And he fought against the Poison King Mithridates. Wondering why the fuck is his name the Poison King? So well, he's actually he was like one of the first toxicologists, and that's kind of boring. But what he did do is you know that idea of like slowly poisoning yourself to get yourself immune to the poison. That's what he did that. He literally did that. He was the original person who did that. He was the guy, right? So Mithridates, he's out here slowly drinking tiny doses of poison, while slowly getting immune to it. In fact, his research into like poisons and antidotes actually made him survive a snake bite, because he was about to bleed to death from the snake bite, but he lived because he like did something. I forgot what it was. It like I think he used snake venom. Actually, it was something. He was bleeding to death, and then he used snake venom to stop his bleeding, which is honestly pretty smart. I mean, now you're like, now you have snake venom in you, but he was the Poison King, so he'll just have an antidote ready to administer. Clearly, he was more worried about being bled to death. Oh wow! Did you know Julius Caesar has 3 names? You know Julius Caesar, but did you know that his name is Gaius? It's either Gaius Julius Caesar or I think it's Julius Gaius Caesar. It's not like a middle name. It's a bit different. Caesar, the last name of Romans actually come from, like, like achievements. So, Africanus, there's a guy named Scipio Africanus. There's two guys, actually. They were related. And basically their name is Africanus. Their last name is Africanus because they won some Roman battles in Africa. So, yeah, that's why. So, Julius Caesar, I forgot why his name is Caesar, but soon his last name will be, kind of registered as a name of like an emperor type thing, like in Russia it's Kaiser, in Rome it's Caesar, etc., etc. Mithridates, honestly, he was a pretty cool guy. That's like the only thing I got right now. We did recently learn about a guy named Nero. And Nero is interesting because he is perceived as the most evil Roman emperor of all time. Like, he's done everything under the sun, apparently. But, looking at it through a modern lens, Nero might have actually been not too bad of a dude, honestly. He might have been pretty chill. The reason he was essentially marked as one of the most evil fellas in Roman history is possibly due because everyone hated him and his bloodline. You see, this is during an era long after Julius Caesar died, and I mean, even there's a guy named Augustus, and Augustus was kind of like the last proper emperor who had like blood relations to anybody prominent, And so when he died, and when his son died, it's like, oh, who's gonna be emperor now, And I mean, even Augustus was like very loosely related to Julius Caesar, So it was getting bad. It was getting so bad in terms of, well, who's emperor now, But yeah, after Augustus died, a guy named Tiberius, yeah, I think that's his name. He's emperor, but he's actually pretty evil. And then Nero, the son of Tiberius, he comes in and he's titled the most evil guy. And like I was saying earlier, the reason why he's titled the most evil guy, we believe, is just because people don't like his father, so then now they don't like Nero, It's also probably because no one really liked the Julio-Claudian, I think that's what the bloodline is called, the Julio-Claudian bloodline at all. After Augustus, they just felt like things were going downhill. So Nero was not only taking the brunt of his father, but he was also taking the brunt of just being born, I guess too late, if that's the right words. Sources could be true, but it is kind of pointed out that, oh, wait a minute. All of these sources, historian sources, by the way, that are talking about Nero, they're using Roman literary devices. So, like, from myths and legends, So, like, Nero apparently being born with bad omens, his teachers calling him cold-hearted, They're all, like, cliches from Roman myths and legends. And it's like, wait a minute, why is Nero's, basically his whole story, his whole life story is kind of ruined by his haters, That's what people think now. Some people do think that maybe he was just an evil fella. He may have not been like an entirely good fella, but he was definitely not the most evil person in Rome. Though he did actually, I guess this should be stated that he did actually assassinate his wife and his mother. I guess that should be noted. But the incident with his mother was perceived as kind of an accident. And then his wife, I mean, hey, what are you gonna do, Also, back then, everyone was getting assassinated. I mean, Julius Caesar got assassinated. I mean, even before Julius Caesar, everybody who had even the slightest bit of power in Rome were getting assassinated left and right by other people who wanted that power. It was a very interesting time for Rome, for sure, because you just wouldn't know who would get assassinated next. Very, very interesting time. Rogier. Oh wait a minute. I should probably rest at the grace. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm acting a fool. Rogier, hello. So yeah, honestly, it's very interesting, like how much assassinations and poison, by the way, assassinations and poison were so greatly huge. They were a very huge thing in Rome, and not even like people getting poisoned in Rome. There's not really much proof about people getting poisoned in Rome. Yeah, a few guys maybe here and there. It was hard to tell if you got poisoned or if you just died from a sickness. So that's why so many Romans were like fearing, oh no, maybe I got poisoned by my enemy. And you know. Did you know Rome actually had a system where you could like declare a state of emergency, and then you would just put out basically like a bounty list. Oh yeah, we need these people dead, and usually they're usually like political enemies, right? So it's kind of crazy how that works. Once again, leaning into the idea that assassinations were you know, they were just the thing. They were just the natural thing in Roman history for some reason. You know, it's very fascinating if you think about it. Honestly, I love that class, but just because the professor is good at teaching it. Honestly, I feel like if it was anyone else, I couldn't have bothered to pay attention to a single thing. All right, yeah, it's time. Oh wait, hold on, Rogier, where'd you go, buddy? He's all like, nah, you unsummoned me. I hate you now. All right, I see how it is, Rogier. I get it. Nah, I can't do. Yeah, I'm gonna need some help. Did you know before Rome was an empire, it was actually called the Roman Republic? And it's a very interesting system. There's a Senate, and there was 2 consuls, which are basically the 2 leaders of Rome. I mean, the Senate was there too, but the Senate was really cringe. You know, the Senate was like basically kind of like the beginning of assassinations. The Senate in Rome assassinated a consul named Tiberius. Yeah, there's a bunch of similar names. That's the worst thing about Roman history. Everyone has like the same names. So there's another Tiberius a long time ago before the one I told you about, and his name was Tiberius Gracchus. The Senate hated him so much that when he did a speech, they thought he was trying to crown himself as ruler, so they assassinated him. And then I think they killed his brother too. Gaius Gracchus, I believe his name was. I might be wrong there. I'm pretty sure it's Gaius Gracchus. But it's not entirely confirmed. I think so. I think he did get assassinated. Did you guys know that Cleopatra dated Julius Caesar and Mark Antony? Do you guys know who Mark Antony is? Oh, I'm getting absolutely wrecked. Oh, please, Margaret, please. Have mercy, sir. No, I died. Ah, shit. Wow, he was so aggressive. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just rusty. That was bad. Damn, I have to do Roman history work. Okay. Alright. Roman history time. I mean, I was already talking Roman history, but now it's time for me to do Roman history. Oh, I love Roman history.
This paper will argue that when women in Republican Rome were truly ultimately defined by their relationships to male family members, especially their fathers and husbands, they lacked independent legal rights like voting, and they were expected to fulfill their respective roles as wives and mothers with little to no autonomy over their own lives. Though women were heavily influential to men as strong wives to their husbands and stronger mothers to their sons, they were essentially accessories to the men in their lives from the moment they were born, with their names being the female of their father's names, August 27th, 2024 lecture, to the day they die, which would most likely be due to childbirth. What a sad and bitter tragedy befell the 2 Helvii sisters. Both of them died in labor. Both of them died while giving birth to daughters. I weep for the sad fate of the husbands, who are both very fine men. Pliny letters 4.221.1 to Shelton 288. Pliny is a major source when it comes to the condition of women in the Roman Republic. The fact that the sources are also limited reinforces the idea that women, despite being integral in Roman society, as shown with Romulus and Remus taking women from neighboring locations to ensure Republican Rome's legacy, were only truly highlighted when associated with men, usually their husbands. This is especially true with mothers. A mother in the Roman world is rarely talked about, but when they are perceived as strong-willed. Furthermore, the mother is described to have a relaxed and encouraging bond with their children, furthering their success as a wife and mother. If they're a girl, or as a true Roman man, if they're a boy, Shelton 20 to 22. In one way or another, Pliny's letter of the two Helviae sisters showcases how women live and die fulfilling the role of wife and mother, which would be praised as pietas from those around them in Roman society. However, Pliny's letters also showcase how, despite the two women losing their lives giving birth, he not help but weep for the very fine husbands of the two sisters, reinforcing the idea that women were largely defined by their relationship to males like their husbands. Something can even be said as to the daughters themselves. Pliny expresses a brief moment of grief for the daughters, and not much else. It can be expected that the two sisters dying before giving birth to daughters instead of heirs could be seen as a saddening disappointment in the larger scale of the expectations of women in the Roman Republic, though perhaps not a complete failure. Nevertheless, he said, women would have the full rights of marriage, having a share in their possessions, Roman citizenship, and the dearest possession that the human race has children. Livy 1.9. This relationship between Roman society and children appears to be palpable, and so, in this sense, it is the role of the woman as a mother to just have children. Though male heirs are preferable in the eyes of the Roman Republic, it was clear that the roles of women in the Roman world are limited to two. They must be married and must rear children. If those children are female, they are also expected to fill that role of wife and mother at a very young age. Roman girls grew up very quickly, ready to assume the duties of a Roman matron, and to become a wife, and even a mother, as early as the age of 12 or 13, Tilton 289. Unmarried women were deemed something like a disgrace in Roman society, with parents viewing them as burdens to the family. With the life expectancy of women, in general, being the age of 30, Shelton 290 and 90 women die during childbirth, Shelton 290. It can be safe to say that the woman's life was locked in the narrow roles of mother and wife. But what was expected of them after being married and giving birth showcased just how much they were meant to fulfill as a mother and wife. For example, a woman's husband could be exiled, but his wife would be expected to follow him, and if he were to die, she would be expected to preserve his works, as exemplified by Helvidius Pris's wife Anya, reinforcing the idea that a woman is only defined by her husband even after death. Or, if the husband were to cheat on the woman, she was expected not to care for her husband's infidelity, and yet she was expected to never cheat on her husband, as exemplified by Scipio Africanus' wife, Tertia, Shelton 296. If they were stabbed, either by themselves or others, they were expected to not show a single ounce of pain, or any other emotion for that matter, as exemplified with Caecina Paetus' wife, Paria, Shelton 294. It even appeared that the Roman Republic laws reinforced this behavior that was expected of women in Roman society, with one law that actually prohibited any woman from crying or having any emotional outburst during a funeral. The 12 Tables 10.4. So while that was one of the few laws that prohibited a woman from showing a negative emotion, it was one of many laws that prohibited women to be just as equal as the men they were attached to by marriage. Dismissing the envoys, many asked whether the Romans had also opened a refuge for women, since that at least would be a way to get wives who were their equals. The young Romans resented this attitude, and things were undoubtedly beginning to look violent. Livy 1.9. It appears that since the time of Romulus and Remus, and the founding of Republican Rome, that women had become attached to a life defined by men, and that may have caused a sort of domino effect, in which it was not only the social standards of Republican Rome, but the women must fulfill those social standards, because it's the law. Some examples of this are the fact that women could not vote, though interestingly enough, they were allowed to protest, as showcased when the Lex Oppia law was passed in 215 BCE, but eventually repealed in 195 BG due to the protesting of women. It is worth considering that it was high-class women that mostly objected to this law, so their status may have been the only reason they were able to protest at all. September 17th, 2024 lecture. Especially considering the fact that women being independent was considered taboo in Roman society. Those who were independent were cast out. Shelton 297. The same goes for intelligence, as women who have had education were not allowed to demonstrate their intelligence in public around men, as they were not allowed to disagree or even speak on whatever opinion or piece of work the man would bestow. These factors not only showcase the condition that perhaps high-class women were in, but also reinforces the idea that women, despite their class, truly lacked legal rights within the Roman Republic, as well as their independence from the men they are surrounded by. Those who were independent were cast out. Shelton 297. The same goes for intelligence, as women who have had education were not allowed to demonstrate their intelligence in public around men, as they were not allowed to disagree or even speak on whatever opinion, wit, or piece of work the man would bestow. These factors not only showcase the condition that perhaps high-class women were in, but also reinforces the idea that women, despite their class, truly lacked legal rights within the Roman Republic, as well as their independence from the men they are surrounded by. In conclusion, when assessing the condition of women in Republican Rome, one can learn that women were largely defined by their relationships to male family members. This is especially the case when associated with their fathers and husbands, as they lacked independent legal rights like voting, and were expected to fulfill their respective roles as wives and mothers with little to no autonomy over their own lives. Roman women were confined to the roles of wife and mother since childhood, their identity shaped by their father, and then their husband rather than any independent legal or societal standing.